So good morning everyone. So for today I will be reporting the chapter 7 to 9 in the subject of CDI 1. Let's first tackle the chapter 7. So chapter 7 is all about surveillance. So first let us know about what is surveillance. So surveillance is designated or secret observation of places, persons, and vehicles for the purpose of obtaining information concerning the identities or activities of the subject. So ang surveillance DI is all about observing the place, the vehicles, and the person in that particular area. In simple terms, is about is a close observation of someone, often in order to catch them in wrongdoing. So an example, sa surveillance is you hired a private detective to follow someone who's been doing criminal activities in that area. So that's why you need to hire a private detective in order to obtain or gather information about that person. There are two types of surveillance, the covert surveillance and the overt surveillance. So covert surveillance, when the subject is not aware that he is being observed. Second is overt, when the subject is aware that he is being tailed. So ang covert surveillance DI is ang imong giimbestigaran nga person is not aware that he is being observed. So wala siya nakabantay nga imo dai siyang giimbestigahan. So overt surveillance na po is ang person nga imo giimbestigaran is aware nga imo siyang gisundan. So daghan kina siya sa mga salida gyud nga kasagara sa kuan surveillance is overt. So ako ang i-explain ang surveillance of place. So surveillance of places, the crimes which requires this type of surveillance are gambling kanang mga sugal, like mga card games, mga tong-ets mo na siya, abortion, prostitution, illegal sale of drugs or alcohol, dishonesty among employees, or infidelity in a divorce. So kaning surveillance of places mo na siya ang mga crime nga na-review siya sa usa ka lugar, like pwede siya mahimo sa balay. Parehas aning gambling, card games, mga tong-ets is pwede rin siya mahimo diri sulod sa panimalay. So muna siya example of surveillance places. So these are the equipments to be used in surveillance of place. So first is the picture camera with telephoto lenses. Second is binoculars. Third is tape recording apparatus. Fourth is wiretapping device, and lastly other recording instrument. So these are the equipments to be used. So let's go to shadowing or tailing. So shadowing or tailing is the act of following person. So kanit si shadowing or tailing is kuan siya mo ni siya action nga usa sa pag-imbestigar sa tao nga imo ang sundan ang imo ang subject. So mo siya pasabot sa shadowing or tailing. So guys, diri na buta sa methods of foot surveillance. So natay tulo ka methods, which is the 1-man shadow, 2-man shadow, 3-man shadow, and 3-man shadow. So first i-discuss na to si 1-man shadow. So si 1-man shadow is it is conducted by one man alone in shadowing subject. So pasabot sa 1-man shadow is isa lang ang mag shadow sa subject. So siya ray isa observe, mag-gather of information sa subject nga iya ang giobserbaran. So dito sa 2-man shadow, so sa 2-man shadow, this method is the easier for the surveillance to fully cover the subject. So kani si 2-man is duha na sila. kanay silang duha is kanang opposite side sila. Pwede sila nga ang isa is the first person, the first surveillant is siya ang primero mag-observe, then the other the other person is nasa sa opposite side, so siya magatang na siya dito, siya kibali siya na mo puli pag mahuman na pud ang isa ka kauban niya. So there is a 3-man shadow or ABC technique of shadowing. So there is tulo na sila. So example is moving surveillance sila, tulo sila kabuk sakyanan, it is isa kabuk ila ang subject. So kani siya is kani siya nga method is ma-prevent ang mga suspicious, dili ra kayo ma-aware ang subject nga gisundan siya or kuanan siya gisundan siya og mga investigator. So sa ang naka-advantage aning ikatulo nga method is kung isa sa tulo is suspicious na, is pwede na siya mo back out. Pwede ang duha na pod ang mopadayon. So another example is if ang first car is gasunod sa subject, then the subject is may move siya sa side of the road. So nasa sa traffic light, so imbis na si A kay mosunod, so ang iyang buhaton is mo straight na lang siya ang mulakaw, din ang duha nga nahibilin nga iyang kauban is mo to siya mo padayon sa operation nga ilang gibuhat. So diri na sabta sa tactics and techniques of shadowing. So the general, in general, so the subject should be kept unaware of the shadowing in operation. The investigator should be inconspicuous. So meaning sa inconspicuous is dili nimo ma-attract ang attention niya sa imo. So the investigation should shift from left to right, never remaining for long directly behind the subject. Both sides of the street should be used. So kanang area nga inyong gikuanan is magamit jud siya tanan. So if the subject is aware of the tailing, he should request for his immediate removal. So if the subject nga iyang sundan is aware na, pwede na siya mag-request nga immediate removal. So direta sa particular, so turning corners. So the surveillant should not rush if the subject turns to a corner. If the subject disappears, the nature of the surrounding will determine the tactics to locate the subject. In most cases, it's better to lose the subject than to alert him of the tailing. So there is a turning corners. If the subject disappears, so the nature of the surrounding will determine the tactics to locate the subject. So sa surrounding, ma-locate ran nyo siya by the surrounding. So ma-detect ran ninyo dira siya sa surrounding. At least dili ninyo siya dili siya ma-alert to nga inyo siyang gisundan kay ug ma-alert to siya is mulakaw siya na nga place. So entering a building. So sa entering a building, so the surveillant must aboard on the same elevator. Then ang surveillant is kung unsa nga floor kung asa nga floor mohunong ang subject is dito sab ang surveillant. If daghan sila surveillant is isa nila is lahi og sudlan nga floor. So riding a bus, kung subject is mo sakay og bus, so ang surveillant is mo sakay pud sa gisakyan sa subject, og mulingkod siya is behind or side sa subject. Tas riding a taxi, so if if the subject is riding a taxi, so syempre ang surveillant is musakay pud og laing taxi, dili siya dapat musakay sa taxi nga gisakyan sa sa subject. So if nag-ride og taxi ang subject is, if dili niya maapsan ang subject is, if ma-fail siya nga sa pag-tail sa subject is, pangutan-on niya ang driver sa taxi og i-note pud niya ang company name og plate number sa taxi nga gisakyan sa subject. So riding a train, so the shadower must fall in line towards the ticket booth behind the subject so that he could overhear the destination. So kung magsakay og train ang subject, so imo siyang sundan. So the surveillant must follow the subject in order to know the destination nga atuan sa subject. So inside the theater, so the shadower should be seated behind the subject. If the subject gets out, he should be followed on different exit points. So kung ang subject is mulakaw or mugawas na siya sa theater, so ang shadower is musunod pero sa lahi nga exit point siya moagi para dili aware ang subject. So inside a private house, the shadower should wait outside at a distance to be inconspicuous, taking the address and the occupants to be verified later. So kung nasila sulod sa isa ka private house, so ang shadower is maghulat sa gawas nga medyo layo para dili dili po siya suspicious lang taon sa subject. Dayon i-take note po niya ang address og mga occupants to be verified later, so mga tao. So inside a restaurant, shadower should allow some time before entering the restaurant to give the subject time to select his team. So once nga musulod ang atoang subject sa restaurant, so ikaw nga shadower is magulat kag pila ka minutes nga makasulod ang subject, then maka-order sa yang gusto. The shadower must select the obscure table and estimates to finish to his meal at the same time as that of the subject. So mangita siya og dapat mangita siya og table nga distansya gamay aron ma-estimate niya kung kano sa mahuman og kaon ang subject. So telephone booth, so the shadower may take the next booth or stand near the subject to hear the conversation. The telephone book used and page number at which it was left open and should be noted. So if the shadower is if the subject is nasa telephone booth, so ang shadower is musulod sa next booth, either musulod sa next booth or motindog near the subject para madungog ang conversation. So pag mahuman ang subject ko gamit is i-note niya ang page number at which it was open and should be noted. So i-note gito niya gyud. So inside a small private or public office, the shadower must wait outside by pretending to be a customer of a nearby establishment. So dire kung ang subject is inside in a small or public office, so ang shadower is maghulat sa gawas, magpa-as if nga customer sa nearby nga establishment. So magpretend lang siya sa gawas. So in a hotel, so the room number of the subject could be inquired from the hotel registry. Once pinpointed, the shadower should take an adjacent or opposite room. If there are no available room on this arrangement, the nearest vacant room should be his choice. So kung ang subject is naa sa hotel, ang shadower is take an adjacent of opposite room. So opposite room kiba silingan na sila og room. Kung wala gi available room nga kuan, so ang nearest vacant room kibali silinga kaning walay available sa opposite room. So dito siya sa murag layo gamay mga 3 doors ana bitaw. So sa ikatulo pa siya nga room mo sulod. So mao to siya ang tactics and techniques of shadowing. So, diri na ta sa chapter 8 sa reactive and proactive methods of investigation. So, nata types of criminal investigation, the reactive investigation and the proactive. So, a reactive is a traditional manner in which police become involved in investigation of crime. And proactive strategies or proactive investigation are often covert in nature, usually involve the police initiating investigative activities prior to occurrence of crime. Through proactive type investigation, the police place themselves in a position to deal with crime before it happens. So mo to siya ang proactive. So proactive, now ang proactive is na siya yung methods of investigation is there are these are the blending operations, takeout operation, decoy operation, and lastly is the interdiction. So sa blending is the officers dress as civilian. So there is a blending operation is ang officer is magdress og civilian clothing to blend sa area, mo-adapt siya sa area. So stakeout operation consists of a group of heavily armed officers who hide in an area of a store or building waiting for impending hold up. So kaning stakeout operation is grupo ni siya nga heavily armed officers nga nagtago lang sa usa ka building, naghulat lang sa mga rubber. So the decoy operation is the officer dressed as and play the role of potential victim, drunk, narcissist, or tourist. So ang sa decoy is ang usa ka officer is magplay og role. So magdress siya, kung buang siya is magsuot po siya mga sanina nga mga gisi-gisi, nagayamukat yang nawong nagyud kay buang man yang giplay nga role. So mo to siya sa decoy operation. So interdiction is involves interception of seizure of drug smuggle. So interdiction is involves interception. So mag-intercept og mga smuggled drugs. So mo to siya sa chapter 8. So dirita sa chapter 9 sa crime scene search. So sa crime scene, so ang crime scene is not merely the immediate area where body is located or where an assailant concentrated his activities, but also the place of retrieval of physical evidence, which includes the vehicles and its access and escape route. So crime scene is muna siya ang crime scene is the area, immediate area where body is located and where assailant concentrated his activities. So golden rule of at the crime scene is never touch or move any object at the crime scene unless properly photographed, measured, and indicated in the sketch. So ang golden rule is the crime scene is dili hilabdan ang mga any object nga naa sa crime scene unless na picture na siya og na picture na siya og na measured na siya sa and indicates the sketch. So so sa crime scene is nagid siya mga rules. So dirita sa assignment of duties sa office natay officer in charge, assistant, photographer, sketcher, master note taker, evidence man og measurer. So dirita sa crime scene processing. So sa crime scene processing the crime scene search is na siya tulo. So the first is processing and securing a crime scene, protecting the crime scene and the evidence, laboratory examination of objects and substances located usually at the crime scene. So mo to siya ang tulo. So sa dirita sa investigator's notebook, dapat na i-purpose o recording note. So dirita sa dirita sa duties of first officer at the crime scene. So sa duties of the first officer at the crime scene is be sure not to destroy or change any which may severe to reconstruct the crime. So dili dapat dili jud nga mangguba or mag-change sa butang, sa mga butang nga dili lisod na i-reconstruct sa usa ka crime. So first responder is muna siya ang mga members of the PNP or other law enforcement agencies who are mandated and expected to be the first respond to calls for assistance in cases of incidents of crime. So kaning mga first responders are mga PNP. So muna siya yung mga expected to be the first to respond calls for assistance in cases of incidents of crime. So muna sila. So direta sa standard CSI form. So natay CSI form 1, first responders report form. Sa second is CSI form 2, request for the conduct of SOCO. CSI form 3, turnover or of collected evidence from IOC to SOCO team. Fourth is the CSI form 4, SOCO report forms 1 to 4. So CSI form 5 is the release of crime scene form. So napagidetay last is the CSI form 6. So there is IOC or investigators CSI form. So this shall be accomplished by the IOC at the OSCP prior to the lifting of the security cordon. So kato siya is mao na to siyang chapter 7 to 9 nga report nako. So salamat kayo sir, thank you.